Ladies, let's talk about something big. Something as big as colonizing Mars or reinventing transportation. We're not here to mess around with small ideas. We're here to talk about relationships, the kind that don't just spark but ignite something extraordinary. Imagine building a connection so powerful it feels like launching a rocket into orbit, where every moment is fueled by authenticity, respect, and a shared drive to be better. That's the vision. That's what you deserve. But here's the hard truth. Too many guys, especially older guys, are grounding their rockets before they even hit the launch pad. They're making mistakes not because of who they are, but because of how they show up. And you? You're the ones who feel the disconnect, the ones who know something's off but can't always put a finger on it. Today, I'm going to break it down for you 7 habits that older men fall into that turn younger women like you away, not because of age, but because of mindset. And by the end of this, you'll see your power to demand more, to inspire change, and to build relationships that don't just work, they soar. Let me paint your picture. I've spent my life chasing the impossible electric cars that outrun gas guzzlers, rockets that land themselves, tunnels that defy traffic. But one thing I've learned, whether it's building a Tesla or sending a starship to Mars, is that nothing great comes from playing small. Relationships are no different. You don't want a guy who's coasting, who's stuck in low orbit, who's afraid to take risks or be real. You want someone who's all in, who's building something epic with you. But too often, older men guys in their 40s, 50s, and beyond trip over their own wiring. They've got the experience, the wisdom, the stability to offer something incredible, but they short circuit with habits that make you roll your eyes or walk away. And I get it. You felt at that moment when a guy's trying too hard or not trying enough, and you're left thinking, is this it? Is this the best he's got? It's frustrating. It's disappointing. But here's the flip side. You have the power to change the game. You're not just a passenger in this rocket. You're the mission commander. You set the trajectory. Let's rewind for a second. A while back, I was at a dinner, some tech thing, lots of big ideas floating around. I'm sitting across from this guy, sharp, accomplished, probably in his late 50s. He's talking to a younger woman, bright, full of energy, and I can see he's trying to connect, but something's off. He's nervous, fumbling, treating her like she's some rare artifact he can't touch. He's asking safe questions, nodding too much, and I'm thinking, man, you're building SpaceX level tech in your head, but you're acting like a rookie intern. She's polite, but you can tell she's checked out. And I realized something. This guy wasn't failing because he was older. He was failing because he wasn't owning who he was. He was shrinking himself, and in doing so, he was dimming her light too. That's when it hit me. Relationships aren't about age or status or money. They're about showing up as the best version of yourself. No apologies, no excuses. And women like you deserve that. You deserve a partner who's not just along for the ride, but who's ready to build something extraordinary with you. So why does this happen? Why do some older guys miss the mark? It's not because they're bad people. It's because they're stuck in old programming mindsets that tell them they need to impress you, to prove something, to be something they're not. And that's where these 7 habits come in. They're not just mistakes, they're design flaws in how some men approach you. Think of them like bugs in a rocket's code. One wrong line, and the whole mission crashes. But here's the good news. You don't have to accept those crashes. You can demand a better design. You can inspire men to rewrite their code, to show up with confidence, authenticity, and respect. And when they do, you'll see connections that don't just spark, they explode into something bigger than you ever imagined. Let's talk about what you're really looking for. You're not here for superficial games. You're not here for guys who flash their wallets or hide behind their resumes. You want someone who sees you as an equal, who challenges you, who brings out the best in you. You want a relationship that feels like a SpaceX launch precise, powerful, and headed somewhere incredible. But too many older men don't get that. They fall into trap habits that make you feel like you're not being seen, not being valued. And I'm not just talking about them, but I'm talking about you, your power, your standards, your ability to shape what comes next. Because here's the thing, you're not just choosing a partner, you're choosing the kind of life you want to build. And if a guy's not meeting you at that level, if he's tripping over these habits, then he's not ready for your mission. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. Building anything worthwhile, whether it's a company, a rocket, or a relationship, takes guts. It takes clarity. It takes a willingness to say, this is what I stand for, and I won't settle for less. I've had to do that my whole life. When people told me electric cars were a pipe dream, I didn't listen. When they said reusable rockets were impossible, I kept going. And I'm telling you now, don't listen to the noise. Don't settle for men who don't see your worth. Don't settle for connections that feel like they're stuck in the atmosphere when you're ready to break into orbit. You have the power to demand more, not just from them, but from yourself. Because when you raise your standards, you don't just change your relationships, you change the world around you. So, what are these habits, these flaws in the system that keep older men from connecting with you the way you deserve? We're going to dive into them one by one, and I'm going to show you how to spot them, why they happen, and how you can inspire something better. But before we get there, let me leave you with this. You are not here to be someone's trophy or someone's student or someone's bank account. You are here to be a partner, a force, a co-creator of something extraordinary. And the men who get that, the ones who show up with confidence, who own who they are, who meet you eye to eye, those are the ones worth your time. Those are the ones who will join you on the mission to build something epic. Let's be real. You've seen these habits before. You've met the guy who's so nervous he treats you like you're made of glass, or the one who thinks his money or his job title is enough to win you over, or the one who's trying so hard to act young that he forgets who he is. These aren't just mistakes, they're signals. Signals that a man hasn't done the work to know himself, to own his value, to meet you where you're at. And you're too smart, too driven, too incredible to let that slide. You're not here to fix anyone, but you can inspire them to step up. You can set the bar so high that only the best will reach it. And when they do, you'll know you've found someone who's ready to launch with you. So stick with me. We're going to break down these 7 habits, and I'm going to show you how to turn frustration into opportunity, how to turn disconnect into connection, how to turn a spark into a supernova. Because you, ladies, are not just part of this story. You're the ones writing it. Let's build something extraordinary. Let's launch. All right, ladies, we've set the stage. You're not here for half-baked connections or men who fumble the launch sequence. You're here to build relationships that feel like a starship blasting through the stratosphere, bold, purposeful, unstoppable. But let's get to the core of why so many older guys miss the mark with you. It's not their age. It's not their experience. It's something deeper, a lack of self-worth. When a man doesn't know his own value, he shows up in ways that make you feel unseen, undervalued, or just plain frustrated. Today, we're diving into the first 2 habits that older men fall in, totalizing you and fumbling the age question, and why these are red flags that scream, this guy's not ready for liftoff. More importantly, I'm going to show you how to spot these flaws, why they happen, and how your power, your standards can inspire men to level up. Because you're not just looking for a partner, you're looking for someone who can match your orbit. Let's do this. First up, idolizing you. Picture this. You're talking to a guy, maybe he's in his 50s, got a solid career, decent suit, the works, but the moment you start talking, something's off. He's treating you like you're a rare asteroid sample, too precious to touch. He's overly polite, agreeing with everything you say, dodging anything that might spark a real conversation. He's so afraid of messing up that he's not even in the game. It's like he's put you on a pedestal so high he can't even see you as a person anymore. And you feel it, that disconnect, that awkwardness. You're thinking, why is this guy acting like I'm some untouchable goddess? Here's why. He's not seeing you as an equal. He's seeing you as a prize he doesn't deserve. And that, ladies, is a design flaw in his wiring, not yours. Let me break it down. When a man idolizes you, it's like he's trying to launch a rocket with no fuel. The mission's doomed before it starts. He's so caught up in how amazing you are, your youth, your energy, your beauty, that he forgets who he is. He's overthinking every word, second-guessing every move, and projecting insecurity like a neon sign. And you know what? That's not attractive. It's exhausting. It makes you feel like you're carrying the whole conversation, the whole connection on your shoulders. I've seen this in boardrooms, in tech labs, in life. When someone's too focused on impressing you, they stop being real, they stop being interesting, and you, ladies, deserve better than that. You deserve a man who stands beside you, not below you, groveling for approval. Think about it like this. When I was building Tesla, people said electric cars were a fantasy, but I didn't care about their approval. I cared about the mission making, something real, something that mattered. A man who idolizes you, he's not on a mission. He's auditioning for a role he doesn't even believe he can play. And you feel it, that lack of confidence, that neediness. It's not about you being too good for him. It's about him not believing he's good enough. And here's where your power comes in. You don't have to settle for that. You can demand a man who knows his worth, who meets you eye to eye, who brings his own fire to the table. Because when you do, you're not just raising the bar for him, you're raising it for yourself. Now, let's talk about the second habit, fumbling the age question. You've been there. You're vibing with a guy, the conversation's flowing, and then you ask, so how old are you? And suddenly, it's like someone hit the pause button on his confidence. He stammers, shifts in his seat, maybe tries to dodge the question with a nervous laugh or a quick subject change. His whole demeanor screams, I'm terrified you'll judge me. And in that moment, he's not just losing his cool, he's losing your respect. Why? Because when a man acts like his age is a problem, he's telling you he sees it as a problem. And if he thinks it's a flaw, guess what? You might start to see it that way too. Let's be clear, age isn't the issue. I'm not exactly a spring chicken, and I've never let that stop me from chasing big ideas or big connections. Age is just a number, like the distance to Mars or the horsepower in a Tesla Plaid. It's not about the number, it's about how you navigate it. But when a guy fumbles the age question, he's showing you he's not navigating, he's crashing. He's bought into this idea that being older makes him less valuable, less attractive, less worthy. And that's a mindset problem, not a calendar problem. Society loves to throw shade at older guys dating younger women, and some men internalize that noise. They let it make them feel small, ashamed, like they're breaking some unspoken rule. But here's the truth. There's no rule book. There's only confidence or the lack of it. I've had moments in my life where I had to face skepticism head on. When we were building reusable rockets at SpaceX, people laughed. They said it was impossible, a waste of time. But I didn't flinch. I owned the vision, owned the work, owned the challenge. And that's what you need from a man when you ask about his age, someone who owns it. A guy who can say, I'm 52, with a steady voice and a glint in his eye like it's just another data point in his mission. Or better yet, someone who flips it with humor. I'm old enough to know better, young enough to do it anyway. That's the kind of energy that makes you lean in, not pull back. That's the kind of man who's ready to build something with you, not just orbit around you. So, ladies, here's where you come in. You have the power to shift this dynamic. When a man idolizes you or stumbles over his age, it's not your job to fix him. It's not your job to boost his ego or make him feel better about himself, but you can set the standard. You can show him through your confidence, your clarity, your unapologetic presence, what it looks like to own who you are. When you walk into a room like you're the CEO of your own life, you inspire others to do the same. You don't have to say a word, you just have to be you, unapologetically, fiercely, fully. And the right men, they'll see that. They'll step up, they'll ditch the pedestal and the panic and meet you where you're at. Let me tell you a quick story. Um, a while back, I was at a conference, some big AI summit. Um, I met this woman, sharp, young, full of ideas about the future of tech. She was talking to an older guy, a veteran in the industry, and I could see him shrinking. She asked him something simple, like how long he'd been in the game, and he froze. Started rambling about his early days, tripping over his words, like he was afraid she'd write him off as too old. She didn't care about his ages, he cared about his ideas, his energy. But he couldn't see that. He was so caught up in his own head, he missed the chance to connect with her. And I thought, man, you're sitting on a gold mine of experience and you're acting like it's a liability. That's the tragedy of these habits. They don't just push you away, they rob men of their own potential. Here's what I want you to take away. You are not here to be worshiped or judged. You're here to be met, to be challenged, to be partnered with. When a man idolizes you, he's not seeing you, he's seeing a fantasy. When he fumbles his age, he's not owning his story, he's running from it. And you don't have time for that. You're building something bigger, a life, a legacy, a connection that's as bold as a SpaceX launch. So don't settle for men who shrink in your presence. Demand men who rise to meet you. Demand men who know their worth and see yours. Because when you do, you're not just changing your relationships, you're changing the game. What's next? We're going to dive into the habits that lean on superficial fixes money, fake youth, playing the mentor. These are the traps men fall into when they think they can buy or fake their way into your orbit. But you're smarter than that. You're looking for the real thing. So let's keep going, let's keep pushing, and let's build something extraordinary together. All right, ladies, we're in the thick of it now. You've got the vision relationships that don't just coast, but blast off into something extraordinary, like a Tesla tearing down the highway at 200 miles per hour. You've seen how a lack of self-worth can make a man stumble, turning you into a trophy or shrinking under the weight of a simple question like, how old are you? But now, let's pivot to something else that's tripping up older guys when they try to connect with you. Superficiality. These guys think they can shortcut their way to your heart with flash, tricks, or outdated playbooks. We're talking about 3 habits that scream, I'm trying too hard, leading with money, positioning as a mentor, and pretending to be younger than they are. These are the equivalent of slapping a shiny paint job on a rocket with a busted engine. It looks nice for a second, but it's not going anywhere. I'm going to break down why these habits push you away, how they undermine real connection, and why you, as women with vision, can demand something deeper. You're not here for shiny distractions, you're here for the real deal. Let's dive in. First up, leading with money. You've met this guy. He's got the nice watch, the tailored suit, maybe drops the name of his vacation house in Aspen or his latest Tesla Model S. He thinks flashing his wallet is the key to impressing you. He's buying drinks, offering to cover dinner before you've even ordered, or casually mentioning his corner office like it's a personality trait. And sure, at first it might catch your eye. Stability's nice, who doesn't like a guy who's got his act together. But here's the problem. When a man leads with money, he's not showing you who he is. He's showing you what he has. It's like me trying to sell you on SpaceX by only talking about our budget. That's not the point. The point is the mission, the drive, the vision. When a guy leans on his bank account, he's reducing himself to a walking ATM, and worse, he's reducing you to someone who can be bought. And you, ladies, are worth more than that. Let's be real. I've built companies worth billions, but I've never once thought the way to connect with someone is to wave a checkbook in their face. That's not how you build something lasting, whether it's a business or a relationship. When a guy leads with money, he's not building a connection. He's trying to buy your attention. And attention's cheap, it fades the second the bill's paid. What you want is respect, depth, someone who sees you as a partner, not a transaction. I remember this one time, early days at Neuralink, I met a guy at a fundraiser, older, successful, thought he could charm everyone by talking about his private jet. The women in the room, they were polite, but you could see their eyes glazing over. They didn't care about his jet. They wanted to know who he was, what drove him, what made him tick, but he didn't get it. He thought his wealth was his personality. Don't let a guy like that waste your time. You're not here for a sugar daddy. You're here for a partner who brings something real to the table. Next up, positioning as a mentor. This one's sneaky. You meet a guy, he's older, he's got years of experience, and he decides the best way to connect with you is to play the wise teacher. He's giving you career advice, dropping life lessons, acting like he's here to guide you to the promised land. At first, it might seem Sweet's taking an interest. Right? Wrong. He's not connecting with you as an equal. He's putting himself in a role where he's above you, like you're a student in his classroom. And let me tell you, that's not sexy. It's like trying to launch a rocket by reading the manual out loud. It kills the vibe. You're not looking for a professor. You're looking for a partner who can match your energy, who can spark something real, not lecture you into liking him. I've seen this in my own world. At Tesla, I've worked with brilliant young engineers who don't need me to hold their hand. They need me to challenge them, to build with them. Relationships are the same. When a guy tries to mentor you instead of connect with you, he's missing the point. He's so focused on showing you how much he knows that he forgets to show you who he is. And worse, he's pushing you into a box where you're not his equal, you're his project. I remember a conversation I overheard once at a tech conference. This older guy was talking to a younger woman, brilliant coder, and he kept trying to teach her about the industry. She was polite, but you could tell she was thinking, I already know this. Where's the real conversation? She didn't want a mentor. She wanted a spark, a connection, someone who saw her as a force, not a student. Ladies, you deserve that. Don't let a guy hide behind a mentor role to avoid being real with you. Now, let's talk about the third habit, trying too hard to look young. Oh man, this one's painful. You've seen it, the guy in his 50s rocking skinny jeans that don't fit, throwing around slang like he's auditioning for a TikTok video, or chasing trends that scream, I'm not comfortable in my own skin. It's like watching a rocket try to launch with a mismatched engine. It's awkward, it's forced, and it's not going anywhere. Here's the deal. You're not attracted to a guy who's pretending to be 25. You're attracted to a guy who owns who he is, who carries his experience like a badge of honor, not a burden. When a man tries to act younger, he's not fooling you, he's fooling himself. And that lack of authenticity, it's a turnoff. I'll be honest, I'm not out here trying to dress like a 20-year-old startup bro. I wear what works for me, simple, sharp, timeless. Because the truth is, confidence doesn't come from chasing trends. It comes from knowing who you are and owning it. When I started SpaceX, people said I was crazy to think we could compete with NASA. But I didn't try to be something I wasn't. I leaned into my vision, my work, my truth. That's what you want from a man. Not someone who's pretending to be young, but someone who's so comfortable in their own skin that they make you feel alive just being around them. A guy who's trying to act young is like a bad software update, glitchy, outdated before it even launches. You deserve the real thing, a man who's sharp, who's fit, who's himself, no matter his age. So, ladies, here's where your power kicks in. These habits leading with money, playing the mentor, trying to look young, they're all superficial fixes for a deeper problem, a lack of authenticity. And you don't have to settle for that. You're not here for a guy who thinks he can buy you, teach you, or fake his way into your world. You're here for someone who shows up as himself, who brings his real self to the table, who meets you where you're at, and you have the power to demand that. By holding your own standards high, by refusing to play along with superficial games, you're not just protecting your time, you're inspiring men to step up. You're showing them what it looks like to be real, to be bold, to be worthy of a woman like you. Think about it like this. At SpaceX, we don't build rockets to impress people. We build them to change the game, to get to Mars, to make history. You're doing the same thing in your relationships. You're not here to stroke egos or play along with shallow tactics. You're here to build something epic, something that lasts. And that starts with rejecting the superficial. When a guy leads with money, call it out, maybe not out loud, but in your mind, say, I see you, but I'm not here for that. When he tries to mentor you, steer the conversation back to something real, something equal. When he's chasing youth, smile and move on. You're not here for a costume party. You're here for a man who's ready to launch with you, no gimmicks, no shortcuts. What's next? We're going to dig into the habits that kill connection in conversation bragging, dominating, neglecting the basics, because you deserve a man who listens, who shows up, who's worth your time. So let's keep pushing, let's keep raising the bar, and let's build something extraordinary together. Ladies, we're pushing forward full throttle, like a Falcon 9 breaking through the atmosphere. You've seen how older guys can stumble putting you on a pedestal, fumbling their own age, or leaning on shallow tricks like money or fake youth. These are all symptoms of a bigger problem. They're not connecting with you, the real you. They're caught up in their own heads, trying to impress instead of engage. But you? You're not here for performances. You're here for relationships that feel like a Neuralink breakthrough, deep, meaningful, electric. In this part, we're zeroing in on two more habits that older men fall into, habits that kill the spark before it can ignite, overloading conversations with their achievements and neglecting their physical presence. These are the moves that make you feel like you're talking to a resume or a ghost, not a partner. I'm going to break down why these habits are deal breakers, how they rob you of the connection you deserve, and how you can steer things towards something real. Because you're not just looking for a man, you're looking for someone who shows up, listens, and builds with you. Let's get to it. First, let's talk about the guy who turns every conversation into a highlight reel of his life. You know the type. You're at a coffee shop, maybe a bar, and he's off to the race telling you about his corner office, his MBA from a top school, the time he closed $1 million deal, or climbed some mountain in his 20s. It's like he's reading you his LinkedIn profile, bullet point by bullet point. And at first, you might nod along thinking, okay, he's accomplished. But 10 minutes in, you're bored. You're checked out. Because he's not talking with you, he's talking at you. He thinks listing his trophies will make you see him as high value, but all it does is make you feel like you're not even in the room. It's like trying to watch a SpaceX launch, but getting stuck listening to a lecture on rocket fuel instead. You don't care about the specs, you want to feel the liftoff. Here's why this happens. Some older guys believe their achievements are their edge, especially when they're talking to a younger woman like you. They think, I've got years of Winslet, me lay them out, and she'll be impressed. But that's not how connection works. I've learned this the hard way. When I started Tesla, I could have spent all day talking about my past projects or my big ideas for electric cars. But what got people on board wasn't my resume, was the vision, the excitement, the shared purpose. Relationships are the same. You don't want a guy who's trying to sell you on his past. You want someone who's present, who's curious about you, who's building something with you in the moment. When a man overloads the conversation with his accomplishments, he's not connecting, he's performing. And you, ladies, deserve better than a one-man show. I saw this play out once at a tech meetup in Silicon Valley. This guy, probably in his late 50s, was talking to a young entrepreneur, sharp as a tack. She was asking him about his take on AI startups, and instead of engaging, he launched into a monologue about his career, every deal he'd made, every boardroom he'd dominated. She tried to steer the conversation back, but he wasn't listening. By the end, she was just nodding, her eyes wandering to the exit. And I thought, man, you had a chance to connect with someone brilliant, and you blew it because you couldn't stop talking about yourself. That's the trap. When a guy's too busy proving his worth, he forgets to see yours. And that's not just unattractive, it's a missed opportunity for something real. So, how do you handle this? You don't have to sit through the monologue. You're not here to be an audience. You're a co-creator. Next time a guy starts rattling off his resume, steer the ship. Ask him something real, something that forces him to think, to feel, to be present. Say, that's cool, but what's something you're passionate about right now? Or what's the last thing that really challenged you? You're not just changing the subject, you're setting the tone. You're showing him you value connection over credentials. And the right guy, he'll pick up on that. He'll lean in, not lecture, because you deserve a conversation that's a two-way street, not a one-man parade. Now, let's talk about the second habit, neglecting physical presence. This one's a biggie. You've met this guy too. Maybe he's got a sharp mind, maybe he's charming over text, but when you meet him, something's off. His shirt's wrinkled, his haircut's stuck in the 90s, or he's let himself go like he's given up on the basics. It's not about looking like a fitness model or a movie star, it's about effort. When a man doesn't take care of his appearance, it sends a signal, I'm not investing in myself. And if he's not investing in himself, why should you invest in him? It's like showing up to a SpaceX launch with a rocket that hasn't been polished or tested. You wouldn't trust it to fly, and you shouldn't trust a guy who doesn't show up as his best self. Don't get me wrong, attraction isn't just about looks, but physical presence is an extension of who you are. It's about self-respect, discipline, the way you carry yourself. I'm not saying every guy needs to be bench pressing 200 pounds or wearing a bespoke suit, but a man who keeps his grooming sharp, dresses with intention, and takes care of his health, that's a man who's saying, I value myself and I value the people around me. I learned this early on. When I was grinding at Zip2, working 80-hour weeks, I could have let myself gauze wet shirts, messy hair, the whole startup stereotype. But I realized something. How you present yourself shapes how people see you, and more importantly, how you see yourself. A clean shave, a sharp jacket, a quick run to clear your head, these things aren't vanity. They're signals that you're in the game, ready to show up. I remember meeting a guy at a conference once, brilliant engineer, probably in his 60s. He had incredible ideas about sustainable energy, but his appearance was a mess unkempt beard, baggy clothes, like he'd rolled out of bed and wandered in. The women he was talking to were polite, but you could tell they weren't fully engaged. And it wasn't about shallow judgment, it was about the disconnect. His ideas were world class, but his presence said, I don't care enough to try. And that's a turnoff. You ladies know this. You're not asking for perfection, but you're asking for effort. A man who shows up looking like he respects himself is a man you can respect. A man who's let himself go, he's telling you he's checked out before the conversation even starts. Here's where your power comes in. You don't have to settle for men who don't show up fully. You're not here to fix anyone's wardrobe or drag them to the gym, but you can inspire them to step up just by being you. When you walk into a room with confidence, your style on point, your energy high, your presence undeniable, you set a standard. You show men what it looks like to care, to invest, to be present, and the right ones will notice. They'll sharpen their game, not because you told them to, but because your energy demands it. I've seen this in my teams at Tesla and SpaceX. When you surround yourself with people who push the limits, everyone else rises to meet them. You're that force in your relationships. You're the one who says, if you're in, be all in. So, ladies, let's wrap this up. These habits bragging about achievements, neglecting physical presence are connection killers. They're like trying to launch a rocket with a faulty guidance system or a dirty fuselage. It's not going to fly, but you have the power to change the trajectory. When a guy's monologuing about his glory days, redirect him to the present. When he's not showing up as his best self, don't settle, move on to someone who does. You're not here for shallow conversations or half-hearted efforts. You're here for connections that feel alive, that challenge you, that make you feel seen. And you deserve men who bring that energy, men who listen, who engage, who show up polished and present, ready to build something with you. What's next? We're heading into the final stretch where we'll tie it all together and talk about the future of relationships, your future, because you're not just choosing a partner, you're choosing the kind of life you want to live. So let's keep pushing, let's keep demanding more, and let's build something extraordinary together. Ladies, we've been on a hell of a ride. We've dissected the habits that hold older men back, idolizing you, fumbling their age, flashing money, playing mentor, chasing youth, bragging endlessly, and neglecting their presence. These aren't just mistakes. They're glitches in the system, like a rocket with misfiring thrusters or a Tesla with a buggy autopilot. They keep connections from reaching orbit, from becoming the kind of epic, world-changing relationships you deserve. But now, We're not just fixing bugs, we're redesigning the whole damn system. This is about the future of relationships, your future, where you don't just find a partner but build a mission together, something as bold and transformative as landing a starship on Mars. You're not here to settle for mediocre connections or men who can't keep up. You're here to set the pace, to demand authenticity, to create a new standard for what relationships can be. Let's close this out with a vision that's as big as you are, a call to action that's as relentless as a SpaceX launch, and a challenge to make every connection count. Buckle up, this is where it all comes together. Let's recap the problem one last time. These 7 habits we've talked about, they're not random. They're all rooted in one core issue, a lack of authenticity. When a man puts you on a pedestal, he's not seeing the real you, he's chasing a fantasy. When he stumbles over his age or leads with his wallet, he's hiding from his own truth. When he tries to mentor you, act young, or drown you in his resume, he's dodging the hard work of showing up as himself. And when he neglects his presence, he's signaling he's not fully in the game. These habits don't just push you away, they rob both of you of something real. And you, ladies, are too smart, too driven, too extraordinary to waste time on men who aren't ready to meet you at your level. You're not here for half-hearted attempts or superficial fixes. You're here for connections that feel like a breakthrough, like cracking the code to sustainable fusion or nailing a rocket landing on the first try. Now, let's talk about the future, your future. Relationships aren't just about finding someone to share a coffee or a Netflix binge with. They're about building something bigger, something that pushes you both to be better, to dream bigger, to live bolder. Think about what I've done with SpaceX or Tesla. Every project I take on is about redefining what's possible, making electric cars that outrun supercars, rockets that don't just launch but come back to Earth. Relationships are no different. You're not here to play small. You're here to redefine what connection means, to build partnerships that are as ambitious as a mission to colonize another planet. And that starts with you, your vision, your standards, your refusal to settle for anything less than extraordinary. Here's the truth. You have the power to shape the men you meet, not by changing them, but by being unapologetically you. When you walk into a room with confidence, with clarity, with that fire in your eyes that says, I'm here to build something epic, you set a standard. You tell the world and every man in it what you're worth. I've seen this in my own life. When I started Neuralink, people thought I was nuts to think we could connect brains to computers, but I didn't care about the doubters. I surrounded myself with people who matched my drive, who pushed me as hard as I pushed them. That's what you need in a partner, someone who's not just along for the ride, but who's in the cockpit with you, ready to navigate the stars. Let me tell you a story. A while back, I was at a dinner with some of the brightest minds in tech. There was this woman there, young, sharp, the kind of person who could run circles around half the room. She was talking to an older guy, successful, big name in the industry, but you could tell something was off. He was doing all the things we've talked about, bragging about his deals, trying to sound hip with some forced slang, even hinting at his bank account like it was a personality trait. She was polite, but you could see it in her eyes. She was done. Not because he was older, but because he wasn't real. Later, I saw her talking to someone else, a guy who wasn't trying to impress her. He was listening, asking questions, sharing ideas, showing up as himself, and she lit up. The difference? Authenticity. That second guy wasn't playing a role, he was building a connection. And that's what you deserve, ladies. Men who show up, not show off. So, how do you make this future happen? It starts with you. You're the visionary here, the one who sets the trajectory. Every time you refuse to settle, every time you walk away from a guy who's stuck in these habits, you're sending a signal. You're saying, I'm worth more than that. And the right men will hear it. They'll see your confidence, your clarity, your refusal to play games, and they'll step up. Not because you fixed them, but because you inspired them. I've seen this in my teams. When you set a high bar, when you demand excellence, people rise to meet it. At SpaceX, we didn't just hire the best. We created an environment where people had to be their best. You can do the same in your relationships. Create an environment where only the real, the bold, the authentic can thrive. Here's my challenge to you. Don't compromise. Don't let a guy slide because he's nice enough or has a fat bank account. Don't tolerate the guy who's too busy bragging to listen or too lazy to show up as his best self. You're not here to stroke egos or settle for less. You're here to build something extraordinary, something that feels like a Tesla accelerating from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, flat fast, thrilling, unstoppable. And that means holding every man to the same standard you hold yourself to. Be relentless, be uncompromising, Be the woman who walks into a room and changes the game, not because you're trying to, but because you can't help it, because you're you. Let's talk about what this looks like in practice. When you meet a guy who's falling into these habits, don't just roll your eyes and move on. Use it as an opportunity. If he's bragging, steer the conversation to something real. Ask him what drives him, what scares him, what he's dreaming about. If he's neglecting himself, don't settle for someone who's checked out. Look for the guy who's invested in himself, who shows up sharp and ready. And if he's not there yet, keep moving. There's a whole universe of men out there, and the right ones will meet you where you are. They'll see your fire and bring their own. They'll see your vision and say, let's build that together. This isn't just about relationships, it's about your life. Every choice you make, every standard you set is a step toward the future you're building. I've spent my life chasing the impossible electric cars, reusable rockets, brain-computer interfaces, and every time it's the same principle. Don't settle for what's easy, go for what's epic. You're doing the same thing. You're not just choosing a partner, you're choosing the kind of life you want to live, the kind of legacy you want to leave. So don't let these habits, these glitches hold you back. Demand more, inspire more, build more. Ladies, you're the pioneers of your own story. You're the ones who decide what's possible, who set the course for the future. And the men who get to join you, they're the ones who show up authentic, confident, ready to build something extraordinary by your side. So go out there and be relentless. Be the woman who changes the game, who raises the bar, who makes every connection count. Because you're not just building relationships, you're building the future. And I know you're going to make it one hell of a ride.